In this video, I go through most of the features of the Focusrite Scarlett 8i6 and the Focusrite Control software. You can watch my unboxing and setup video of the Focusrite Scarlett 8i6 by clicking at the top. Right, so here we have the front of the unit. Quick overview, we have two main inputs here. We've got the phantom power button here. This is for the main monitor outputs, which are located on the back, and that is a volume control. And then you've got two volume controls here, one for each headphone channel, and then the two headphone outputs here. So of the two main inputs on the front, both of them are dual inputs, so they can take a microphone or an instrument, and the Focusrite automatically detects what input you are using by the cable that you plug in. So for example, if you require an instrument recording, then you would use a TS, that is a tip and a ring cable, also known as a 1/4 inch line, and you would plug it in like that, and it would detect it as an instrument. If you wanted to connect a line level instrument, such as a keyboard or an FX unit or anything of that nature, you can use a tip ring sleeve balance cable into here, but it's worth noting that it will not use the preamp of the unit because it detects it as either instrument or line. If you want to connect a microphone, you'd use a balanced XLR cable like this. You've got each connector there, and that would pop in like that. You can then make use of the internal preamp. You can also set the air feature within the Focusrite Control software, whereby it runs it through an extra level of circuitry to kind of emulate the old Focusrite air preamp from older units. In addition, you can press this button here to provide phantom power for your condenser microphones. You can also adjust the gain of these two inputs by controlling this and this one here. Right, so we'll flip it round to the back now. So we have the on-off switch here. Now the first thing to note is, unlike the earlier cheaper models in the Scarlett range, this one uses a power adapter, and this isn't optional either. You have to use this power adapter to use this unit. It seems like a bit of hassle at first, but you'll see later on why it's actually a good thing. So we have the SPDIF digital out and in. You can use this for legacy digital hardware, like plugging in a mini disc player or some other piece of hardware. You can also use this input and output to loopback audio, but then I'll show you later on why you actually don't need to do that, because you can now do that via software, thanks to the Focusrite Control software. Right, so we have a Kensington lock. This is a USB-C. The cable it comes with in the box is a USB-A to USB-C, so it doesn't matter if you don't have USB-C on your laptop, as I do not. Right, you've got traditional MIDI in and MIDI out, so that can be from your keyboard and whatnot. Right, and you've got 4 inputs and 4 outputs on the back. Now it's worth noting that these inputs and outputs will work with both a balanced cable and an unbalanced cable. So I'll just talk about the inputs quickly. So these inputs here are not as versatile as the ones on the front. The reason being is that you don't have a dedicated gain control in the form of hardware control, and you don't have any kind of preamp in there either. So what you'd use these for is either a line level output from another music player, for example, or you would use like an FX out, you know, from a mixer, and you know, that kind of thing. But you wouldn't plug in a microphone here, and you certainly wouldn't plug in a guitar either. Now the outputs here, these are essentially your main outs. So I would connect my Yamaha speakers to 1 and 2, so that would be my left and that would be my right. And then if I had a second pair of speakers as well, maybe a smaller set, then I could connect them into 3 and 4. Now it's worth noting that 1 and 2 are on a different channel than 3 and 4. So if I wanted to, I could set up a mix in the Focusrite Control software to give me a different output from 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. Obviously in a room of this size it's not going to be useful, but if I had a separate control room and a separate recording room, then that could be quite useful. Now in addition to that point, I'll note now that headphone 1 uses the same output channel as monitor out 1 and 2. Conversely, or rather similarly, headphone output 2 shares the same output as line outputs 3 and 4. Right, so this is what it looks like after initial setup. We've got the power adapter here, we've got USB-C here, and we've got the monitor outs, left channel and right channel in there. Right, let's dive into actually using this thing. Right, so we're going to load the Focusrite Control software, and I've reset mine to factory settings so you can see how it looks when you first open it. So first of all, this is the main mixer section where you can control the levels of your inputs and outputs, and you can set up your mix in terms of which inputs get routed to which outputs. You have the settings wheel at the top here where you can select the sample rate or the clock source. Now by default you're not really going to need to change these because the DAW will set this automatically, and the clock source, unless you're using the SBDIF feature, will always just stay on the internal. Right, so we have the input settings here, and these directly correspond to the two main inputs on the front of the Focusrite device. So if you connect a TRS or a TS jack into the front panel, you've got the option of selecting either a line or an instrument connection. So once you've connected your instrument, for example an electric guitar, you would come in and press it here. You've got the option of padding the signal, not that you would need to because the signals are generally quite weak on an electric guitar anyway. Regardless of which input you use, you can also use this air feature, air mode, whereby it emulates the old transformer sound of the old Focusrite preamps. So if you want to, you can name your inputs like so, and we would set that up accordingly. If you connect a microphone via the XLR cable, you do not need to worry about this setting here, as the Focusrite Scarlett will automatically detect that you're plugging in a microphone. If the signal from the microphone is coming in too hot, to the point where you can't adjust the gain control on the front of the Focusrite, then you can use this pad feature here, which will reduce the dB. It's worth noting that when you press either the instrument or the air or the pad buttons, the corresponding LED will light up on the front of the unit.
So it's been a couple of months since I first started this video, so expect a couple of outfit changes and a few hairstyles. Oh, and some of the audio isn't perfect either, thanks to a UK heatwave, but just bear with.
So one of the things I love about this interface is its versatility, and one of the use cases for the rear inputs is not for recording at all, but it's just for playing music. So I use this Google Chromecast, and this is the audio edition. It has a line out cable in the form of a stereo, 1/8 inch TRS cable, and I'll show you in a second how I connect that. Right, first of all, I've got a USB hub here, and I'm going to connect that into the Mac, like so. That's just a mouse, and then this here is going to the Focusrite. So I'll connect cable to Chromecast, like so. So we've got a TRS tip ring sleeve, 1/8 of an inch cable. I'm going to connect that up like that, and then that's going through into this adapter to output single mono TS outputs, and these will go into the back of the Focusrite Scarlett. Right, so here we have it. The Chromecast audio goes into inputs 3 and 4. So these will be 2 mono channels, and then I'll connect them in stereo in the Focusrite Control software. So, in order to get this set up for the Google Chromecast, I am going to go into this hardware input section, and I'm going to click on my analogs 3 and 4, like so, and I'm going to turn off the front panel microphone, because we're not using that at this point. So what we have at the moment is 2 analog inputs in the form of mono channel. However, what I want to do is combine this into one stereo channel. So I can click over here, and that now becomes stereo. I'll name this Chromecast, and now we should be able to get an input from the Chromecast once we cast some music and see what happens. First of all, we'll see the signal coming in via the software playback channel, and then we'll switch to the Chromecast and we'll see the signal coming in at the top here. Right, there we go. You can see the signal coming in at the bottom. Now the signal by default will be coming out of both outputs, and this is because all inputs are mapped to all outputs. If we try and take an input away from outputs 1 and 2, then we effectively kill it for all other outputs as well. Therefore, what we have to do if we wish to have a different mix for each different channel is we need to make use of the mute or the levels. So for example, on channels 3 and 4, I do not want the software playback channel to be audible, so I could either click the mute button, and as you can see now it's killed the signal on that output, or I can just use the levels via the level control. And the good thing about this is I can then go to the other output and change the levels accordingly, knowing that I'm not affecting the other output. Okay, let's switch to the Google Chromecast. Right, and there we go. You can now see the signal coming into the hardware inputs 3 and 4. And remember, I'm using both the the left channel as input 3 and the right channel as input 4, and then I'm combining the two to make a stereo pair. Now, the keen, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that the signal is a lot weaker from the Chromecast, and that's definitely worth noting because there is no direct gain control when you use the rear inputs of the device, the Scarlett. However, I haven't found this an issue so far, as the levels are more than enough for recording and listening. Right, so the thing I love about this Focusrite Scarlett, this particular one, is that it has a power cable, so dedicated power supply, meaning it doesn't rely on the bus power. You don't have to worry about having too many USBs connected at once, and not only this, but it means that you can use the device as a standalone unit as well. So what I mean by that is you can effectively unplug the USB and continue using it as an audio interface, which could be useful in live situations, for example. But one of the reasons I like it, I will show you right now. So I'll get the music playing again via the browser. So you can see the music's coming in via this software playback. Say I want to take my laptop away, do some work on the sofa. I will switch it to the Google Chromecast. And now it's playing through the Chromecast, as you can see here. And now at this point I can disconnect the USB cable from the Scarlett. And then the music still plays. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? Now another thing that's really cool is if you turn off the power switch on the back, the speakers do not pop. So you don't have to worry about the order in which you turn everything on and off. So USB bus powered devices normally mean you have to turn the speakers off first, otherwise they will pop when you disconnect the USB from the device. But as you've already seen, I've disconnected, the music still plays because the power's on, and there was no speaker pop or any kind of issue there. And just to illustrate what I'm talking about, I'll turn the Focusrite off, but I'll leave the speaker on. Off. On.
Right, we're going to connect the keyboard, this really old Yamaha Ultrasound. We're going to connect to this auxiliary out, and it's going to go into this line cable and then line to phono adapter, and then that is going to plug into inputs 5 and 6 next to the Chromecast. Right, here we go. So the keyboard is connected. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to check the Focusrite Control software. Right, we're going to add the input. So we plugged it into 5 and 6 in the back. So we'll add that as a stereo pair. Okay. And you can see now The signal come through. It's not very loud. I'm going to turn the volume up to the max on the keyboard, but the signal should be just enough to work with a bit of luck. Right, I'm going to load Ableton Live 10. Okay, and we want to record the 5 and 6, but we don't have that in the system yet. So we'll go to this audio preferences and we'll go into input. Obviously make sure that you've got the Focusrite selected in your DAW. And we're going to select 5 and 6. And we'll call this Yamaha. 9. If you remember, we had the Chromecast on 3 and 4, so we could also record that if we wanted to. And this is our mic instrument 1. Like that. Okay, right, we're going to leave the buffer size as it is. We're just doing a little test. Right, now we'll select 5 and 6. And we can see there's a signal coming in. Right, on the record, now we can see the signal coming in here. And we're going to go you can see the sounds now playing back. So what we're going to do is plug an electric guitar in via the jack here. Right, now we want to make sure that we're setting gain control perfect. We'll start with about 75%. Should do this job. Right, we want to select the input, so we're going to select line 1, for guitar. Okay, right, we can check the input settings now, and we'll select instrument instead. Right, it's coming in a bit hot, so I'm just going to turn it down. Still coming in hot. A little bit hot still. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. Right, we're going to go into live. We're going to select, right, so this is already selected. I'm going to select mic 1. Moving to guitar. I'm going to do some recording. I'm going to mute this track. Right, here we go. I'm going to do a microphone test. We're using this Behringer Ultra Voice. It's basically a cheapo SM58. Using an XLR cable. I'm going to plug it into the Focusrite. Now, set it up about 75%. Testing, 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 testing. Right. Check the input settings and we can see we are getting a signal. Now remember, we don't have to switch these because it's auto detecting it as a microphone. Now we need to add channel 2 and we'll call this, right, call it the Behringer. There we go. Right, testing, 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 testing. Right, this is testing. Right, I think we can turn this up a little bit. Testing, testing. There we go. Got better now. We have a better signal. Right, here we go. This is a test from the same microphone, the Behringer. And I've turned up the gain to about 80%, 85% now. So we get a stronger signal coming in. Air mode is currently enabled and I'm now going to disable air mode like so. You probably won't find any difference because I'm not singing and I'm speaking very monotone. Just want to point that out. Right, so we're going to test a few scenarios now for monitoring. So what we'll do first is test monitor outputs 1 and 2. I have connected my Yamaha speakers to 1 and 2 on the back, and then I also use the headphone socket 1, which is also monitor output 1 and 2 on this mixer. Now I will say it's pretty loud. My monitors are set to +4 dB, which is just in the middle indent, and the volume control barely goes above quarter of the way on this Focusrite. The volume control is nice and smooth and it doesn't have any play in it as well, which is really nice. Right, so the purpose of this demonstration is to show the latency and how you would set zero latency monitoring when you want to record. So by default in the Focusrite Control software, all the inputs you have are unmuted. This effectively means that whatever comes into the device will be directly monitored from the device. Therefore, whatever comes into the guitar channel will go straight out to monitor outputs 1 and 2. Therefore, zero latency. Now obviously that's fine for basic performances, but if you want some kind of backing music coming from your DAW, then you're going to have to make do with some latency. So I'll just show you the difference right now. So what we'll do is we will set our latency accordingly. So as a test, so we'll set 512. Now by default, monitoring is off. So we'll be monitoring in this. Right, there we go. You can see the signals. Right, now, if I want to turn zero latency monitor off, I can either turn the slider down, or I can hit the mute button. Now this won't actually mute the input in the DAW. This merely just mutes what I am hearing straight from the device, i.e. direct monitoring. So right now I can't hear anything through the headphones until I select the monitoring mode in the DAW. Now I've got to say, the latency is not too bad at all. Let's try and record something. Now, let's just crank this up even more, and so we can see if we can see a difference. Yeah. Can definitely tell the difference now. Yeah, no good. And if we go right up to 2048 seconds. Oh, no way. Absolutely impossible to use. So if we bring this down to 256, the trick is basically to find the lowest number in here that doesn't cause any audio distortion.
In the case of dual monitoring, say via headphones, person 1 might want to listen to both the guitar and the microphone. Person 2 might only want to listen to the microphone. So we could mute the guitar here and it won't affect person 1. Now this is fine for zero latency or direct monitoring. But in the case of monitoring within the DAW, for example, if you want to hear specific click tracks or beats, you're going to have to set the audio specifically to come out of a different channel from the DAW. So first of all, we will add channels 3 and 4. We've called this person 2. And then we want to mute playback 1 and 2 for person 2. And then we'll mute playback 3 and 4 for person 1. Now, back in the DAW, we can then select a specific output. Like so. So in this case here, the guitar would only go to channels 1 and 2, i.e. person 1, and the microphone will only go to channels 3 and 4, i.e. person 2. So if we play this now, now you can see, look, microphone signal is coming straight into this person only. Right, I'm going to test the Loopback feature of the Focusrite Scarlett. Now I should note that not all Scarlett devices have this feature. So first of all, what we want to do is click into the Loopback here. We want to make sure it's unmuted, and by default it's going to be playing back channels 1 and 2. So what we'll do is we'll get a quick video up. Okay, so here we go. We're playing a video on YouTube. and you can see the output of that video coming to the outputs 1 and 2, and also 3 and 4, and also the loopback. Now we go to Ableton Live, add a new audio track. We'll call this Loopback, and we will want to select this. For the record, 7 and 8 is SPDIF. Oh. We select the loopback channel, arm the recording. Right, as you can see, the signal is coming in. So now we can record as we wish. On the right are mono anyway. They only need one line of signal. The rest, like so, and that's going in Ableton. Nothing more than a sound recorder at this stage. So, right, that completes the sound test for the Pioneer. So you can also do loopback via the SPDIF input and output. And essentially what you do is you grab a cable from the output of the Focusrite Scarlett and you put that into the input of the SPDIF. If you made it this far, then thanks for watching. I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get 200 subscribers before the end of the year. I intend to make more videos on the Scarlett interface in the coming future, so if there was anything I didn't cover as well as you'd like, or something I'd missed entirely, drop me a comment and I will see if I can do that for the next one. Thank you very much. Now I can't remember what I was going to say. That's hilarious.